My fiancée canceled our wedding 7 times in 2 years, so I gave her all the time she wanted by announcing my engagement to her sister at the rehearsal dinner. After 4 years together and 2 years of engagement, I thought I knew Monica better than anyone, but I was about to learn just how wrong I could be. I was standing in the desert ceremony space at Sunset Ridge Resort, watching our wedding planner Patricia frantically scribble notes while Monica paced between the rows of white chairs we'd arranged just an hour earlier. The Phoenix sun was setting behind the red rocks, casting everything in that golden light that had made Monica choose this venue in the first place, and I remember thinking this moment should have felt perfect. Instead, I felt that familiar knot forming in my stomach as Monica's voice took on that particular tone I'd learned to dread. "I'm having second thoughts about the outdoor ceremony," she announced, stopping mid-pace to face me with her arms crossed. "What if it's too hot? What if the wind messes up my hair? I think we need to postpone again and find an indoor venue." Patricia's pen actually snapped in half. I watched the ink bleed across her notepad like my patience bleeding out of my body. This was cancellation number 7. The first had been 6 months into our engagement when Monica suddenly declared she wasn't ready for such a big commitment and needed time to find herself. The second came 3 months later over some manufactured family drama involving her aunt's divorce that somehow made marriage seem cursed to her. The third was because she decided October weddings were too cliché and we needed to wait until spring. The fourth happened when she couldn't decide between inviting her college roommates or keeping the guest list small, so she scrapped everything rather than make a choice. The fifth was because our original venue wasn't Instagram-worthy enough compared to her friend Ashley's wedding photos. The sixth was just 2 months ago when she suddenly decided the whole thing felt too rushed, even though we'd been planning for 18 months. Each time, I'd swallowed my frustration, rearranged my work schedule as a paramedic to accommodate new dates, watched deposits disappear into venue cancellation fees, and reassured our families that Monica just wanted everything to be perfect. Each time, I told myself this was normal pre-wedding jitters, that the woman I loved was just being careful about the most important day of our lives. But standing there watching Patricia pack up her planning materials for the 7th time while Monica scrolled through her phone looking for reasons why outdoor weddings were problematic, something inside me finally snapped. Not into anger, but into a cold, crystalline clarity I hadn't felt in 2 years. "You know what, Monica?" I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "Take all the time you need. Take forever if that's what it requires." She looked up from her phone, clearly expecting another round of reassurances and compromise. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm done rescheduling my life around your indecision. You obviously don't want to marry me, so let's stop pretending otherwise." Monica's eyes widened with what looked like genuine surprise, as if the possibility that I might have limits had never occurred to her. "Jake, don't be dramatic. I just want everything to be perfect for us." But I was already walking toward my truck, my mind racing with a plan that was forming faster than I could fully process it. 24 hours later, that plan would set in motion the most satisfying revenge I never knew I wanted. That same evening, I was sitting on my couch staring at a beer I hadn't touched when my doorbell rang at 8:30. I wasn't expecting anyone, and Monica had a key, so I figured it was probably my neighbor with another noise complaint about the college kids upstairs. Instead, I opened the door to find Emma, Monica's younger sister, standing on my doorstep with tears streaming down her face and her veterinarian scrubs still on from what must have been a long shift at the animal hospital. I'd known Emma for the entire 4 years I'd been with Monica, had watched her graduate vet school, had celebrated her birthdays and holidays, but we'd never been alone together for more than a few minutes. Monica had always made sure of that, steering conversations away whenever Emma and I started talking, changing the subject if Emma asked about my work as a paramedic, generally treating her sister like competition even though I'd never given her reason to. "Jake, I'm so sorry," Emma said, her voice cracking as she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Can I come in? I need to tell you something about Monica, something I should have told you years ago." I stepped aside and watched as Emma collapsed onto my couch, her shoulders shaking with sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep and painful. She looked exhausted in a way that went beyond just working a 12-hour shift dealing with sick animals, like she'd been carrying something heavy for far too long. Monica called me an hour ago, Emma began, her voice barely above a whisper. She was laughing about canceling the wedding again. Actually laughing, Jake. She said you looked so pathetic standing there trying to convince Patricia to work with another postponement, and how easy it is to manipulate you into accepting whatever she decides. The words hit me like a physical blow, but somehow I wasn't surprised. Deep down, maybe I'd known Monica was enjoying the power she had over our relationship, the way she could derail months of planning with a single conversation and watch me scramble to accommodate her whims. But that's not the worst part, Emma continued, meeting my eyes for the first time. She told me she's been doing this deliberately, that she never intended to actually marry you. She said being engaged is fun but marriage is boring, and she likes having you as her practice husband while she figures out what she really wants. I felt something cold and sharp settle in my chest, a mixture of rage and relief that finally made sense of the last 2 years of my life. She's been using me, I said, and it wasn't a question. Emma nodded, tears flowing freely now. She's been using both of us, actually. Jake, I have to tell you something else, something I've kept secret for 3 years because I thought it was wrong and selfish and would destroy our family. She took a shaky breath that seemed to require enormous effort. I've been in love with you since the Christmas party where you saved my friend's dog when he was choking on a chicken bone. I watched you stay calm under pressure, watched you care more about that animal than about your expensive shirt getting ruined, and I realized you were everything I'd ever wanted in a man. But you were with my sister, and Monica seemed happy, so I convinced myself to stay away from you both. I stared at Emma, seeing her clearly for what felt like the first time. Where Monica was calculating and dramatic, Emma was genuine and steady. Where Monica created chaos, Emma brought peace. Where Monica demanded attention, Emma gave her complete focus to others. Emma, I started, but she held up her hand. Let me finish before I lose my nerve. For 3 years, I've watched Monica treat you like her personal entertainment system. She cancels plans when she's bored, creates problems when life gets too routine, and dismisses your feelings whenever they inconvenience her. She told me once that you're safe and predictable, like those were bad things, but Jake, those are exactly the qualities that make you incredible. You show up when you say you will, you keep your promises, you put other people's needs before your own, and Monica sees all of that as weakness instead of strength. The room felt charged with electricity, like the moment before lightning strikes. Emma was looking at me with an expression I'd never seen before, vulnerable and hopeful and terrified all at once. I know this is terrible timing and probably completely inappropriate, but I can't watch her destroy you anymore. You deserve someone who appreciates how lucky they are to have you, not someone who treats your love like a game she can pause whenever she gets distracted by something shinier. I reached for Emma's hand without thinking, and the moment our fingers touched, I felt something click into place that I'd never experienced with Monica despite 4 years together. This was what genuine connection felt like, what it meant to be seen and valued by someone who actually understood who you were underneath all the ways you tried to please them. Over the next 3 weeks, Emma and I began meeting in secret, initially just to talk but quickly developing feelings that neither of us could deny anymore. We'd meet at coffee shops on the opposite side of Phoenix from where Monica worked, take long drives through the desert where no one would recognize us, sit in my truck outside the animal hospital after Emma's late shifts and talk until sunrise. I learned that Emma had deliberately kept her distance from me for years, declining family dinners when she knew I'd be there, leaving early from parties where Monica and I were together, even switching veterinary conferences when she found out I was speaking at one about emergency animal care. I thought if I stayed away, the feelings would fade, she told me one evening as we sat on a bench overlooking the city lights. But they only got stronger, especially watching how Monica treated you. Every canceled wedding, every time she dismissed something important to you, every eye roll when you talked about work or your goals, it made me want to shake her and tell her how lucky she was. I found myself sharing things with Emma I'd never told Monica, like how I'd always wanted to get involved in wilderness rescue but Monica thought it was too dangerous and time-consuming. Emma's eyes lit up when I mentioned it. I do wildlife rehabilitation, she said. We're always looking for paramedics who understand animal physiology. There's a training program next month if you're interested. With Monica, Conversations always circled back to her needs, her concerns, her timeline. With Emma, I discovered what it felt like to have someone genuinely interested in my thoughts and dreams, someone who asked follow-up questions and remembered details from previous conversations. When I told her about my frustration with Monica's wedding cancellations, Emma listened without trying to defend her sister or minimize my feelings. She does this with everything, Emma admitted. Jobs, friendships, hobbies. She gets excited about something, commits completely, then finds reasons to back out when it stops being new and exciting. I kept hoping marriage would be different because you're such a good man, but Monica doesn't know how to appreciate stability. She mistakes drama for passion and boredom for incompatibility. Meanwhile, Monica remained completely oblivious to what was developing between Emma and me, too focused on her latest project of researching indoor wedding venues and posting dramatic Instagram stories about the stress of wedding planning. She'd call me every few days with updates about venues she'd found, assuming I was still waiting patiently for her to make up her mind, never noticing that my responses had become shorter and less enthusiastic. I found this amazing ballroom downtown, she told me during one call while I was having lunch with Emma. It's available in 6 months, but the deposit is pretty steep. What do you think? Whatever makes you happy, Monica, I said, watching Emma try not to laugh at my diplomatic non-answer. Emma struggled with guilt over our growing relationship, especially as her feelings deepened beyond just attraction into something that felt like coming home. This is so wrong, she said one night after we'd kissed for the first time in the parking lot of a hiking trail where we'd spent the afternoon together. She's my sister, and you're still technically engaged to her. Are we wrong for finding something real, I asked, or is Monica wrong for treating engagement like a hobby she can drop whenever she gets distracted? Emma pulled back to look at me directly. She showed me text messages last week where she was bragging to her friends about keeping you on the hook while she decides if she wants to settle down. She said you're so desperate to get married that you'll accept any excuse she gives you for postponing, and it makes her feel powerful to watch you rearrange your entire life around her whims. The cruelty of it took my breath away, but it also crystallized something I'd been avoiding for months. Monica had never loved me the way I loved her. To her, I was a safe backup plan, someone predictable and devoted who would always be there no matter how badly she treated me. She kept me engaged because it gave her the benefits of commitment without any of the actual responsibility that came with marriage. That realization sparked the most audacious plan I'd ever conceived in my life, something so bold it made my paramedic training in crisis management look like child's play. Instead of confronting Monica privately about her manipulative games, I decided to expose her behavior publicly while simultaneously proposing to Emma at what was supposed to be our rehearsal dinner. The plan crystallized during a conversation with Emma at my apartment 3 days after she'd shown me Monica's cruel text messages. What if we didn't have to sneak around anymore? I asked, watching Emma's face carefully. What if everyone knew the truth about what Monica's been doing and what we've found together? Emma went very still. Jake, what are you thinking? I'm thinking about justice. About giving Monica exactly what she's been asking for all along, which is attention and drama, but not the kind she expects. I pulled out my phone and showed Emma the screenshots she'd sent me of Monica's messages, along with additional ones I'd been collecting over the past few weeks. Look at this one where she tells her friend Ashley that I'm so pathetic and desperate that she could cancel the wedding 10 times and I'd still wait around. Or this one where she brags about having me trained to accept whatever she decides about our relationship. Emma's hands shook as she scrolled through the messages. She wrote that you're practice for when she finds someone who actually excites her. Oh my God, Jake, this is so much worse than I thought. Which is exactly why I want to announce our engagement at the rehearsal dinner tomorrow night, I said, watching Emma's eyes widen in shock. Monica's been playing games with both our lives for years. It's time she learned that actions have consequences. Emma looked terrified and intrigued at the same time. You want to propose to me at Monica's rehearsal dinner? In front of both our families? I want to expose Monica's lies, show everyone the evidence of how she's been manipulating this entire relationship, and then ask the woman I actually love to marry me. Monica wants drama? I'll give her more drama than she can handle. The color drained from Emma's face. Our parents will be there, Jake. Our grandparents. Monica's college friends who are flying in for the wedding. Everyone we know. Everyone who needs to see who Monica really is underneath all the wedding planning and victim performances, I replied. Emma, she's been telling people I'm desperate and pathetic while laughing about stringing me along. She's made you feel guilty for caring about me while she treats our relationship like a game she can pause whenever she gets bored. Don't we deserve better than tiptoeing around her ego while she destroys both our lives for entertainment? Emma was quiet for a long moment, staring at the screenshots that laid out Monica's cruelty in black and white. If we do this, there's no going back. Our families will be torn apart. Monica will never forgive either of us. Monica, forgiveness was never worth having, I said gently. Look at these messages, Emma. This isn't someone who loves me or respects you. This is someone who sees people as toys she can manipulate for her own amusement. The question isn't whether she'll forgive us. The question is whether we're going to keep letting her treat us like her personal entertainment system. Emma took a deep breath that seemed to come from somewhere deep in her chest. Show me exactly what you have in mind. We spent the next 4 hours planning every detail with the precision I used for emergency medical protocols. I would pretend to reconcile with Monica, proceed with the rehearsal dinner as planned, then stand up to give what everyone expected would be a loving toast to my bride-to-be. Instead, I'd deliver a presentation exposing Monica's pattern of cancellations and the cruel messages she'd sent about me, complete with screenshots displayed on the restaurant's projector system that Patricia had arranged for our slideshow of engagement photos. Then, with the evidence of Monica's manipulation fresh in everyone's minds, I dropped the real bombshell by asking Emma to marry me instead. The rehearsal dinner at Celestial Ballroom began exactly as Monica had orchestrated, with her holding court at the head table wearing a white dress that looked suspiciously like a wedding gown while our families and friends filled the elegant dining room she'd chosen specifically because it photographed well for social media. I watched Monica work the room like a politician, accepting congratulations on our upcoming wedding with gracious smiles while making subtle comments about how stressful wedding planning had become and how she needed everything to be absolutely perfect. You know how it is, she told my Aunt Carol with a practiced sigh. When you love someone as much as I love Jake, you want every detail to be flawless. That's why we've had to adjust our timeline a few times. Perfection can't be rushed. Emma sat at the family table looking pale and nervous, barely touching her salmon while Monica's friends from college dominated the conversation with wedding horror stories and unsolicited advice about married life. I caught Emma's eye across the room and gave her a subtle nod, our agreed-upon signal that I was proceeding with the plan despite the growing knot of anxiety in my stomach. When dinner concluded and the moment came for toasts, I stood up with my champagne glass, and the room gradually quieted as Monica beamed expectantly from her seat. She'd probably rehearsed her surprised and grateful expression in the mirror, preparing for what she assumed would be another public declaration of my devotion and patience with her endless wedding delays. Thank you all for being here tonight, I began, my voice steady despite my racing heartbeat. Monica and I have been together for 4 years, engaged for 2, and I know many of you have been wondering when we'll actually make it down the aisle. Gentle laughter rippled through the room as Monica's smile widened, clearly anticipating a romantic explanation for our multiple postponements. Well, I'm here to tell you exactly why we haven't gotten married yet, and the truth might surprise some of you. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the projector system Patricia had set up for our engagement photo slideshow. Monica, you've told me repeatedly that you want our relationship to be perfect, that you need more time to make sure everything is exactly right. But I think our families and friends deserve to see what needing more time actually looks like. The first screenshot filled the large screen behind me, Monica's text to her friend Ashley. Jake is so desperate to get married that I could cancel this wedding 10 times and he'd still be waiting around like a lost puppy. It's actually kind of pathetic how easy he is to manipulate. The room went completely silent. Monica's face went from radiant bride-to-be to horrified disbelief in the span of 3 seconds. This is from last month, I continued, advancing to the next screenshot. Here's another one from 2 weeks ago where Monica tells her college roommate that I'm just practice for when she finds someone who actually excites her, and that being engaged is fun but marriage is boring. More gasps from our families as the cruel messages filled the screen. Monica's parents looked absolutely stricken, while my own mother's expression shifted from confusion to dawning rage. "And here's my personal favorite," I said, clicking to the final screenshot. Monica explaining to her friend that she enjoys keeping me on the hook because it makes her feel powerful to watch me rearrange my entire life around her whims whenever she decides to cancel our wedding. Monica shot up from her chair, her face flushed with panic and fury. "Jake, stop this right now. Those messages were taken out of context. You're humiliating me in front of everyone we know." "No, Monica, you humiliated yourself by writing them," I replied calmly. "For 2 years, you've canceled our wedding 7 different times while telling me you needed more time to make sure everything was perfect. But these messages show that you never intended to marry me at all. You've been using our engagement as entertainment while mocking me behind my back." The room erupted in shocked murmurs as our families processed the evidence of Monica's deception. Her own father looked like he wanted to disappear under the table, while Emma's grandmother shook her head in obvious disgust. "But here's the thing, Monica," I continued, turning to face her directly. "Your games led me to discover something I never would have found otherwise. They led me to someone who actually knows how to love without conditions, someone who sees commitment as a promise instead of a burden, someone who's been watching your cruelty and wishing she could show me what real partnership looks like." I walked across the room to where Emma sat frozen in her chair, pulled out the ring I'd bought 2 weeks earlier, and dropped to one knee in front of her. "Emma, you've loved me honestly when your sister could only love me selfishly. You've shown me what it feels like to be valued instead of tolerated, appreciated instead of taken for granted. Will you marry me?" The entire room held its breath as Emma looked down at me with tears streaming down her face, then at Monica, who was screaming accusations of betrayal and conspiracy, then back at me with an expression of pure love and determination. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, Jake, I'll marry you." The room exploded into chaos as I slipped the ring onto Emma's finger and kissed her while Monica shrieked about betrayal, and our families tried to process the most dramatic reversal they'd ever witnessed at what was supposed to be a celebration of Monica's upcoming wedding. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Monica and a social media storm that made local news look tame by comparison. Monica had launched a furious campaign to paint Emma and me as villains who had conspired behind her back to steal her fiancé and ruin her life, posting long Instagram rants about betrayal and family loyalty while conveniently omitting any mention of the screenshots that had exposed her cruel manipulation. "Jake destroyed my life at my own rehearsal dinner," she wrote in a Facebook post that got over 200 comments within hours. "My own sister stabbed me in the back and stole the man I was supposed to marry. They planned this whole thing to humiliate me in front of everyone I love." But Monica's attempt at controlling the narrative backfired spectacularly because too many people had witnessed the evidence firsthand. Emma's college friends, my paramedic colleagues, even Monica's own sorority sisters began sharing their own stories about Monica's manipulative behavior and expressing support for Emma and me instead. "Honestly, I'm not surprised," wrote Monica's college roommate in a comment that got dozens of likes. "She pulled similar drama with 3 different boyfriends while we were in school, always keeping backup options while complaining that her current guy wasn't good enough." Monica's parents called me directly to apologize, something I never expected but deeply appreciated. "Jake, we had no idea Monica was treating you so badly," her father said during a conversation that lasted almost an hour. "We thought the wedding delays were normal pre-marriage nerves, not deliberate manipulation. Emma is lucky to have you, and we're ashamed of what Monica put you both through." Even more surprising was how quickly the rest of the family rallied around Emma and me once they understood the full situation. Monica's grandmother, who had always been her biggest supporter, visited Emma at the veterinary clinic to express her disappointment in Monica's behavior and her excitement about Emma's engagement. "That girl has been spoiled her whole life," she told Emma, according to the story Emma shared with me later. "Someone needed to show her that actions have consequences. You and Jake deserve happiness, and Monica deserves to learn how it feels when people stop tolerating her selfishness." Of course, Monica didn't take the social rejection quietly. Within days, she was attempting to sabotage Emma's reputation at work by calling the animal hospital with fake complaints about unprofessional behavior and poor animal care. She tried to convince mutual friends that Emma had been secretly pursuing me for years, conveniently ignoring the evidence of her own manipulation. She even attempted to get Emma's veterinary license investigated by filing false reports with the state board about imaginary ethical violations. "She's losing her mind," Emma told me after another day of dealing with Monica's retaliation attempts. She called my supervisor claiming I was stealing medications, then called the apartment complex trying to get me evicted for noise violations that never happened. She's like a toddler throwing a tantrum because someone finally called her out on her behavior. But Monica's history of creating drama worked against her credibility. People who had known her for years recognized the pattern of manipulation and destruction she deployed whenever she didn't get her way, and most chose to distance themselves rather than get caught in her chaos. Meanwhile, Emma and I were discovering what a healthy relationship actually looked like when both people prioritized each other's happiness over their own ego. Emma supported my decision to pursue wilderness rescue training, even attending the informational sessions with me and asking thoughtful questions about the time commitment and physical demands. I encouraged her dream of opening her own veterinary practice specializing in wildlife rehabilitation, helping her research business loans and zoning requirements instead of dismissing her ambitions as impractical. "This is what I always imagined love would feel like," Emma said one evening as we sat on my porch planning our future together. "Like having a partner who wants to build something beautiful with you instead of someone who treats your relationship like a hobby they can abandon whenever they get bored." 6 months after the rehearsal dinner explosion, Monica was essentially ostracized from our social circle and struggling to maintain relationships with friends who had grown tired of her victim narratives and blame-shifting tactics. 1 year later, Emma and I were planning our own intimate wedding ceremony at Sunrise Point Amphitheater, the same desert location where Monica had first told me she wanted to get married before deciding it wasn't Instagram-worthy enough. Many of the same people who had witnessed our rehearsal dinner drama were eagerly planning to attend our actual wedding, including both sets of parents who had become close friends through the process of supporting our relationship. Monica's attempts at sabotage had completely backfired, revealing a pattern of manipulation that extended far beyond just our relationship. Emma's former colleagues came forward with stories about Monica trying to get Emma fired from previous jobs out of jealousy over her success, while several of Monica's ex-boyfriends reached out to share their own experiences with her cancellation games and emotional manipulation. "She did the exact same thing to me," one of them told me during a chance encounter at a coffee shop. "Kept me on the hook for 8 months with promises of commitment while she explored other options. When I finally called her out, she tried to destroy my reputation by spreading lies about me being controlling and abusive." Monica herself had moved back in with her parents after losing her apartment and her job, consequences of the social fallout from her exposed behavior and her own retaliatory actions that had burned bridges with employers and landlords. Emma's parents, initially torn between supporting both daughters, had come to fully embrace our relationship after learning the extent of Monica's deception and witnessing how genuinely happy Emma and I were together. "Monica always demanded attention and drama," Emma's mother told us during dinner at their house. "But you two have brought peace to our family for the first time in years. It's like we can all finally relax without worrying about what crisis Monica will create next." I realized that Monica's 7 wedding cancellations had been the universe's way of protecting me from making the biggest mistake of my life, leading me instead to someone who understood that love meant building something together rather than tearing each other down for entertainment. Emma proved every day that she saw our relationship as a partnership to nurture rather than a game to manipulate, supporting my career goals and sharing her own dreams with someone who actually listened and encouraged her ambitions. The morning of our wedding, I stood in the same desert ceremony space where Monica had delivered her final cancellation, but this time everything felt completely different because Emma had spent months collaborating with me on every detail instead of creating obstacles and drama. As Emma walked down the aisle in her grandmother's simple but elegant dress, surrounded by people who genuinely celebrated our happiness, I caught sight of Monica watching from her car in the parking lot, finally understanding that she had thrown away something real for the temporary thrill of feeling powerful over someone who had loved her unconditionally. Our ceremony proceeded flawlessly, filled with laughter and joy from people who knew our story and were genuinely invested in our future together, while Monica drove away alone to face the consequences of treating love as a game she could control rather than a gift she should have treasured.